Nubian Money, where we help Black women master their mindset. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help Black women master their mindset and maximize their money. I am your host, your proud host. Today, I'm going to use my full government name because we are going to be talking about education. So I am Jade N. Harrell, MED, right? And I am the founder of HighBlackEsteem.com. Today, we are talking about a literacy crisis in America. We're exploring this topic that some educators are saying that our children, Black children, don't know how to read, like literally are graduating high school and don't know how to read. And then we also had the governor this week of California, Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York State, Kathy Hochul, who claimed that Black children in the Bronx don't even know what a computer is. So I am joined today by our queens. We have Miss Laura Lala Key. She is an international real estate agent. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
We're also joined by Miss Athena Gardner. She's a CPA and founder of her organization, WeWealthWomen.com. And we're welcoming for the first time an exquisite author, Miss Erica Lewis. She's the author of Faith in Transition, and she's the founder of Faith in Transition, LLC. So welcome, ladies. Happy Friday. How y'all doing?
It's Friday.
It's
Wow.
It is. It really is. Right. And we've been rocking hard all week with our Fly Nubian Money segment right here on the Fly Nubian Queen Network. So make sure y'all are liking and sharing this broadcast and subscribing. I know all of us have gone to school, right? Some of us may have children in school. Some of us may be supporting children, young adults. But let's talk about this literacy crisis. Listen, one former educator said point blank, not point blank. Well, that's our children, this is like for real, right? All the same, right? But like our children cannot read and the system is looking the other way about it. So we're gonna listen to what she has to say and then we're gonna comment on it. I know the screen was shared, but it just went away. Well, while we get that up, she says, quote, our children cannot read and the system is looking the other way. They're well aware that the children are not learning, but they still pass them on to the next grade. What do you all think about that? Let me hear from Miss Erica. You know, you're an author, right? And so literacy is something that's really important to you and your brand. What are your initial thoughts about the state of literacy right now in the community?
You know, it's funny because some years ago I did community access television, and this was a topic, and it was back in 2003-4 when President Bush had implemented No Child Left Behind. And I think people are forgetting that this is the result of No Child Left Behind. That was he implemented that bill in 2002, I believe it is. So we're looking at 22, 23 years later, and these are the repercussions of it. Because now you have educators coming from different regions of the world coming over to, let's say, New York on the East Coast. And if they're from Wisconsin and they're educating kids in the classroom because they can get a discount on their student loans or don't have to pay their student loans back because they're working in an urban community, do you really care if you're just going to work here 5 years just so you don't have to pay your student loans back? Of course not. So the No Child Left Behind, I think this is just the result and the residue of that act that was put into place in 2002 by President Bush.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Let's hear from Miss Athena. You are a CPA, right? And you work around, with wealth. And so what's in your profession, what's the importance in the relationship between literacy and financial literacy and well-being?
Well, I think literacy is important because if you cannot read, you have a hard time not only communicating, but also comprehending on a higher level. And those things are essential when it comes to now reading and understanding and all things coming up with money, your bank statements, your tax statements. And there's a strong correlation between literacy as far as reading comprehension is and financial literacy. If you have a hard time speaking and communicating, you're going to have a hard time managing money and your resources and communicating with people and professionals like myself, CPAs, or other professionals that can help you with your financial literacy.
Wow, thank you for that. It's really, really important that our children are getting all of the skills that they need that are necessary. And when we're talking about generational wealth and the transfer of wealth, home ownership is so important to that, Lala. So, what is your take on this literacy crisis in our community, as well as the implications that it has within your industry?
Well, simple basics. If you can't read, you can't comprehend what you want to do. That means any kind of home ownership papers that you need to sign. If you don't know how to read those, you don't know what implications are from that. Anything with a loan, document loans, basic information of just banking. When you think about going to the bank, you have to read your documents. So it's not just that. It falls into many other things. If you can't read, you can't comprehend math, you can't comprehend history, you can't comprehend any basics that you have. But I'm literally seeing this when it comes to people who come to me to buy a house. This is why I take, and sometimes it takes hours, I kid you not, where we sit down and I literally go over every word of that contract with my clients so that they understand what's going on. So I am actually seeing in this younger generation that they are not reading on the level that they need to. And I agree with Erica. Listen, just anytime the government decides that they want to come in and step up and have a war on something, it seems like we fail. The No Child Left Behind, all of them left behind. Not only our communities, but that's our first communities that get hit, okay? But two, the war on drugs, we're losing that too. So anytime the government decides they want to get in, it seems that we fail tremendously and our children are suffering.
Thanks for that. And I know that, people have to read through dozens of pages, if not hundreds of pages of contracts when they're acquiring real estate. And so I definitely want to hear more about the implications of that within your industry. If you're just tuning in, welcome, welcome, welcome to Fly Nubian Money on the Fly Nubian Queen Network. Now we're going to hear from the former educator who says that America has a literacy crisis.
Like pretty stagnant for the last decade. But after the pandemic, they plummeted. And now they were like, oh, we got to do something about it. Columbia University, I'm looking at you. You fully backed balanced reading, fully backed it. Teachers College was 100% pushing out balanced reading. That's why the kids don't know how to sound things out. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go do some research. Now they're trying to push science of reading. That's the way. And if you're like, what's science of reading? That's what we was doing. And by we, I'm talking about millennials and older. The little book, when we were sounding words out. That's, yeah. Now they're trying to bring that back. And if you're like, wait, they stopped doing that? Yes! For years, they stopped doing it. I'm going to say this last thing and I'm going to be done. If you have the opportunity and the privilege, right? Because taking off from work is a privilege. You need to start, and by you, I'm talking to parents and guardians, start going to these PTSA meetings and these district meetings. They are passing so many policies and they're banking on the fact that parents and families are not going to show up. You need to know what those policies are and how they're affecting your children, particularly Black and brown children. They know families can't or won't show up. You need to be more involved with your students' schooling. Their life, quite literally, depends on it. All right, I'm done.
Wow, shout out to that, sister. Let me hear from you, Erica. What's your take on what the former principal just laid out? Like, literally, kids are not learning science. I mean, excuse me, they're not learning phonics. Remember, we had phonics back in the day. They used to say,
Yep.
"Oh, hooked on phonics works for me," and you know how to sound things out and decode. They're not doing that. They're trying to bring it back. So, what are your thoughts on this?
It's really sad. In 2017 to 2020, I took a sabbatical and I got out of here. And I worked as a cruise director. I needed to just regroup, refocus, and reshape. And I did that. And I worked on ships. And it brings me to a contract I did in Australia when I spent 7 days in Papua New Guinea. And here I was in a third world country where everyone had to plant their food, live off the land, wait for it to rain in order to have water. Wash their clothes only when it rains, drink water only when it rains. But you have school-age children who were speaking 3, 4, and 5 different languages. And this is a third world country. It is very unfortunate that we have allowed our country and our children to fall into this pit hole. We can't pull them out of it because you know what? Now it's a cycle. Because if we go back to 2002 with No Child Left Behind, that's been implemented. So then you have a generation that was passed on. And then guess what? Since they don't know, they're going to not teach their children because they didn't know to show their children. So now you have a generation and generation of illiteracy that's being passed down. And unfortunately, as it's being passed down, it's getting worse because what little bit of information was once there is slowly being eliminated as the generations progress. I really think that parents really need to just focus. You have kids, you have to get in there and ask questions. Yes, you're going to have teachers in the classroom who don't care, but as a parent, you need to care. They're not teaching cursive in school anymore, which blew my mind. I had no idea about that. I think, honestly, it's up to parents to say, you know what? I can't rely on the school system. I need to get my kid in other programs outside of the city, maybe outside of the state, different programs where they'll go to in the summer, different programs where they'll go to on winter break. We need to start as parents, start thinking outside of the box where we can actually get our kids in shape for their future, because honestly, the government is not. They could care less.
Absolutely. And thank you for that analysis. If you're just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money on Fly Nubian Queen Network. We want you to go ahead and text the word Queens to 87948. The number is on your screen. Text the word Queens to 87948. You'll be notified when we do go live. And you'll also get a free download from our sponsor at the Black Business School. All right, the blackbusinessschool.com. Shout out to the Black Business School. They have a whole AI generated stock options list. And so, this is something that we can use to support ourselves when we're talking about financial literacy, in addition to, the real literacy, right, learning how to basically read and write within the context of this conversation. But definitely join our list. Text the word Queens to 3199. Text the word Queens to that number that was on the screen, and definitely like, share, and subscribe to Fly Nubian Queen Network. Again, that number is 87948. Now, we had our real estate guru, Lala, who is on with us, but unfortunately, she got kicked out. So we're working on bringing her back. She's having, some technical difficulties, like electricity in her neighborhood went out, but she is listening. So we're trying to bring our sister back in. So I do want to weigh in on your take on this, Athena. What did you get from that video?
Well, what I basically got from the video is that our government are failing our children. And I personally feel like our government does not care about children in this country. Why would I say that? A lot of funding from first education comes from state and local funding. The federal government does not have extensive, or should be putting more resources into education, especially with our literacy rates being what it is. Now, if you have money to fund wars in Ukraine, and you have money to send to go to Gaza and with Palestine, why do we not have money to put towards education and also childcare cost relief to help students and parents bring about the best children that they possibly can? And why is it that we made the switch to, like she said in the video, balanced reading versus phonics reading? I never did Hooked on Phonics, but I remember that commercial growing up, right? I remember that commercial, and I think that that was a more solid program to help children. I just feel like overall our government does not really care about children, and America, we need to do better.
Thank you for that. Hey, Lala's back.
The little gremlins got me, but I won.
You did. You're winning.
Went down. I was like, not today.
Okay, cool. So we played the clip. We showed the clip of the former principal talking about the literacy crisis, breaking down that children are not learning basic phonetics, like how to sound out words or how to correlate sounds and consonants and blends and vowel sounds and stuff. And so, we're just getting everyone's take on that. And so clearly, Lala, there has been a huge disparity in terms of how we learned how to read and what children are learning in school right now. And now they're trying to bring back some of those old practices. Do you remember being in the classroom and I guess pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, and basically learning like how to sound out words and letters? And if you have any thoughts of your early childhood experience with that, feel free to chime in and what you think about children just sort of being passed through the pipeline.
In my house, it was mandatory. I mean, what I got taught at school is what I got taught at school. But my mother also made it a point for me to know reading, writing, arithmetic. And when she was serious about that, we did after school every day. Yes, she would sound everything out for me. And it was fundamental. But then we got to a point later where you wanted to introduce things like rubric, just letting kids pass for no reason. And you make them sound it out. But if they spelled cat with a K, oh, good. It still sounds like cat. So this is how you spell cat. This does not serve our children. The rest of the world knows this. And this is why China and all these other countries make sure that their kids don't get this little demon before they are ready to get it. This is why the owner of TikTok doesn't let his children get on TikTok, because education becomes first. As soon as they come out of the womb, and they're not learning on these games, okay? So in my household, it was beyond important for me to learn. Before you went outside to play, where's your homework? Where's your writing practice? How do you spell this? We'll practice these things. But I see more and more in the schools, they do not do this anymore. And they've taken out the important key elements for the children to get the foundation and the basics.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. I see it's kind of related to your point. There's a comment in the chat. And by the way, before I read this comment, I want everyone to take a moment, make sure you like and subscribe this channel, and also go over to flynubianmoney.com and check out the wealth of resources and programming that we have over there. That is actually a solution to the financial literacy crisis within our community and within this country. So I see a comment from B. Brown. And Erica, I want to get your take on this. And then I want to get Athena's take on this as well. And then you, Lala. The comment is this: how do you get the message to the parents who are barely educated themselves, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, literally? How do you get them to those meetings?
I think, sometimes we just have to take our own initiative. We have got to stop waiting for people to knock on our door, to slide a flyer on the door, or to post things in our community so we can see it on the community bulletin board, of which they're closing down all of our rec centers. We have got to stop waiting for the government, the schools, or anyone to do anything for us. It is our responsibility. I do consulting work, and sometimes I work in small towns, and I'm working right now in a very small town right outside of Alpine, New Jersey. Very small school. The oldest child that goes there is 8 years old, so it's very small, and it's kind of like a daycare. But they do agriculture. They plant their food. They're learning 2 and 3 languages before they're 8 years old. They're doing swimming. They're doing arts and crafts. They're learning sewing. And out of all of these children, as I sat there and looked at posters on the wall, there was one Black child. It is so important that we decide that, if I have to travel 30 miles each way to get my baby to this program, then that's just what I'm going to have to do. We have to start making those hard decisions to be uncomfortable in certain areas of our life, so that in the future, our children will have the opportunity to be comfortable in going to their next level of education. Because if there's not a level of uncomfortability at some point, you'll never be comfortable in any other area, because the cycle of struggle is going to continue. You're going to have to do your research. Yes, we have these glorious phones, but what are we using them for? You know, we're TikToking, we're Facebooking, we're IGing, we're posting pictures, but is anybody doing their resume? Is anybody looking for programs? All of this information is on your phone. It's what we decide to do with it. So yes, I am holding mamas and daddies accountable. Yes, I am. It comes to a point where we already know what they're not going to do for us. So then it becomes, what are you going to do for yourself?
I think
I have
that's
to agree
great,
with that.
Erica, because I think that a great illusion that we have is that, or maybe that was in the past, but certainly not the reality now, that the government or America provides or take care of the society in a way that is beneficial. And as time progresses and more time goes on, we are starting to see the cracks. We are starting to see the cracks in the American dream. When it comes to children and it comes to education, the question was, how do parents try to make a dollar out of 15 cents can be active with their children? And it brings a point that, yes, I do think that when you decide to have children, that you are accountable and you have to show up in ways more than just cooking and feeding them and sending them to school. You have to make sure that the education is not only in school, but at home, and that you're having relationships with your teachers and you understand what's going on. However, this points to also within America, the own financial caste system that exists. If you are a working parent, working low to minimum wage, working 2 or 3 jobs just to survive, can you leave your 2, 3 jobs? Realistically, can you leave your 2, 3 jobs to show up to the PTA meeting? Can you afford to even take that time away to be active in your children's life? Not with what the cost of daycare is. The average daycare, depending on because there are some needs-based program, is $400 to $1,400 a month in America. That's the average daycare costs for one child, by the way, for one child. So if you have to work, if you have to provide daycare costs, a lot of our, even how society is in America, where we don't have a lot of communal living anymore, or multi-generational homes or multi-generational communities. It's usually mom, dad, and the kid who's watching, little Susie, who's doing that. So yes, on one hand, the parents need to be more accountable, but I think this is also screaming a financial crisis, is closely tied to a financial crisis in this country.
Awesome.
I have to agree with that, because I need to just step in here in the fact that I think the disparity is not just in the schools. It's in the fact that the cost of living has gone up so high that people are having to work 2 and 3 jobs. And when you have the children, you do have to make that hard decision. I recently had a couple that was ready to buy a home, and she was a full-time worker, and then they had a child, and they were excited. She fully thought she was going to go back to work. But then when they saw the cost of childcare, she would only be going back to work to pay for the childcare. So she decided that she would be the one at home and to help do the educating with the child. And after the pandemic, a lot of people have decided to do that too. But when you have the disparity of the cost of living to what you're bringing home, this is one of the basic fundamentals of why we have these problems with the education in the first place. Parents can't a lot of times take off that time. They got to put the food on the table.
It's really funny because when I do work outside of the urban communities and I'm in the suburban of the suburbans, those suburban areas, they have from June until I think October or November, the farmers market where things are given away. They have all of these resources and we don't know anything about it because we're down this way, maybe 45 minutes to an hour away. And it's like you struggle, you figure it out. You struggle, you figure it out. It becomes that same ongoing song until you're just blue in the face and you just don't know what to do, and then now that's your legacy of struggle, figure it out. So what we have to do is come to a realization that there are things that are available, and just because it's 45 minutes to an hour away does not mean that you can't have access to it too. There has to be a point where you say, all right, we're going to do without this so I can do that. If that means I love a good manicure, but if that means if I have a child and I can't get my nails done for this year, then oh well. I need my hair done right now, but you know what? Gel was $2.99 and I slapped it up in the bun. We gotta get to that point.
I love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's a more number into it.
That's how you make $1 out of 15 cents. Okay. You look at that budget and be like,
Baby, the gel and some brush will save your life. So
Okay.
we,
All right, y'all. Listen, we're tuned into the Fly Nubian Money segment right here on Fly Nubian Queen TV.com. Make sure you all like and share this broadcast. I just want to, if you just came in, hey y'all, hey. I popped out, I popped back in. I think Lala started something. I was like, you know what, not today, Satan. We are going to have this conversation because this is really important. I don't know what's going on.
war on education, honey. They don't want us to be great, honey.
Right. I don't know if it's conspiracy or what. But if you're just tuning in, I wanted to make sure that you're brought up to speed in terms of what we're talking about here today. The topic is why aren't Black kids being educated? There is a sister who went viral on social media. She's a former principal, and she said that our children are not learning how to read. And so let's take a look at that soundbite again and further discuss. In the meantime, I would love for you all to like and share this broadcast. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
And I was a high school teacher. And I need you to know America's in a literacy crisis, and they're not making a big enough deal about it. Our children cannot read. Our children cannot read, let alone writing a paragraph, let alone comprehension. They cannot read. They do not know how to sound words out. They were not taught that. And if you're wondering, well, then why does my kid just keep getting passed on to the next grade? Because that's what they're doing now. They're not holding the children back. They're moving them on. They're graduating them, knowing that your child is illiterate. Our next change makers, our next lawmakers, our next voters cannot read. I beg of you, take the tablets and the cell phones away. Practice letter recognition and sounds and reading with your child, please. And I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. They been new. They been knew the babies couldn't read and didn't care. You know when they started caring? After the pandemic. Them test scores plummeted. First of all, like test scores for reading were like pretty stagnant for the last like decade. But after the pandemic, they plummeted. And now they were like, oh, we got to do something about it. Columbia University, I'm looking at you. You fully backed balanced reading, fully backed it. Teachers College was 100% pushing out balanced reading. That's why the kids don't know how to sound things out. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go do some research. Now they're trying to push science of reading. That's the way. And if you're like, what's science of reading? That's what we was doing. And by we, I'm talking about millennials and older. The one, the little book, you know, when we were sounding words out. That's, yeah. Now they're trying to bring that back. And if you're like, wait, they stopped doing that? Yes. For years, they stopped doing it. I'm going to say this last thing and I'm going to be done. If you have the opportunity and the privilege, right? Because like taking off from work is a privilege. You need to start, and by you, I'm talking to parents and guardians, start going to these PTSA meetings and these district meetings. They are passing so many policies and they're banking on the fact that parents and families are not going to show up. You need to know what those policies are and how they're affecting your children, particularly Black and brown children. They know families can't or won't show up. You need to be more involved with your students' schooling. Their life, quite literally, depends on it. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, thank you, team, for showing that. Shout out to that sister. Black Educators Matter. Somebody in the comments asked, why do we keep saying Black children? Because this is a Black space. And speaking of Black, this segment is sponsored by the Black Business School. So when you text the word Queens to 87948, you will receive a free list of stocks to invest in from the Black Business School. This is a space right here on the Fly Nubian Money segment on the Fly Nubian Queen TV network, where we do center Black issues. And I'm really glad that former Black principal called out this issue in terms of how it is impacting our community. Now that we've heard this clip again, panel, sisters, queens on the panel, what is your take? Anything new stand out for you? Did you get any new thoughts?
I actually did. So when I listened to her talking again, what came to my mind is, what does the future look like if our kids are struggling to read now? What does retirement look like? What does social security look like? What does, what does the workforce look like? Okay, are we going to be in a system where we don't produce intelligent, informed adult? What does voting look like in the future?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't read and you lack comprehension, how are you going to make sense of who you pick to run the future of your country? I think this is highlighting and is a part of a major big issue, which is I think America is going through a reckoning. America that you knew before is not the America now. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Okay, bless Fat Joe the Prophet with that one. Okay, he knew. We need an entire wake up call. With AI coming out, children not being able to read, inflation, families more oppressed. Okay, companies every day are looking ways to cut costs. I'm a CPA. I know the first thing that gets cut when a company is going through something are the workforce, because salaries and overhead are the biggest expenses. Way everything looking right now, it looks like we're one like stone throw away from like universal income, because it's just like the perfect storm. Now, even with open up of immigration and that topic, and I know that can be a hot topic, but what that does is most of the immigrants come in to take the jobs either that are highly skilled or most people don't want to do, or to have a cheap workforce. So the average American child, what does their future look like between immigration, between AI, between not being able to read, that's going to be a frustrated individual. You can't read and write properly because you're struggling with literacy rates, and shame on these schools for pushing these kids through, right? I think that we have become soft. That's why we are lagging. We are lagging behind third world countries.
We are.
Third world countries. I grew up in Jamaica. I'm an immigrant that came to this country. I remember what it was like going to school there. We had less resources, no AC, all up in a bench, right? Only to come here and have everything and they do half as work. Now, I'm not blaming anybody, right? But the idea that the government is having a safety net that cares about us is a false reality. The government is concerned with other things. The federal government doesn't even fund education as much as it should, because most of that funding comes from state and local government. So I would like to hear your thoughts on this, ladies, because I just went into like the future, but I just feel like it's the perfect storm happening right now.
It definitely is. It is a storm that's brewing, and the only thing is going to leave a path of destruction in its way. And I really think in order for us to grab a hold of it, I think at some point we need to go back to what we were doing. We're talking slave years, after slavery, even in the 60s and some 70s, is we need to start homeschooling. Keep your kids at home and do some homeschooling. I have a friend who was an educator. He was a teacher. He worked in a high school. He just retired. He homeschooled his son. His wife got her education. I think she graduated from Seton Hall. And they decided there would be a one income home. And she was an at-home mom. And their son was homeschooled. This young man has just graduated college and has his own business, just bought a house, and just decided he was going to get a car. We need to start taking control. We cannot rely on our government to do anything. If we can't rely on our governments to give supplement in food stamps or help with other resources such as childcare, how can we expect them to help us with education, which would actually create resources and wealth for us? Why would they do that? No, it goes back to what you said. They want to control. This is how you control the masses. They can't communicate. They can't talk. They can't think. It's like a really a big 360 heading back to slavery, because you'll be a slave to those. If you can't communicate, then you need somebody to do it for you and be told what to do. So it's really going backwards to slavery is what it's doing.
Well, I'm going to take it one step further. I'm sorry, I don't think the storm is brewing, y'all. We are in the tsunami. We're already in it. But the way of the world right now, and I'm going to put my toe a little bit in politics because it is tied into this. The GOP has been silently playing chess while we've been playing checkers. And they're putting things into place to keep our communities the way that they want. Not just our communities, and all communities that they don't feel serve them. Just simply look at the plan that they're planning for us in Project 2025. Education is included in that. You're either in it or you're out. They're making it a bigger deal to be the have and the have not. There is no middle anymore. The storm is not brewing, y'all. We in it. So it is up to us to calm the eye of the storm and take control of our communities. Let's not forget, we know how to do this. Black Panthers did it many years ago, and they lied and said that they were a militant group. No, they were feeding people, educating people, making sure the communities were in good standing. We cared about our communities. And until we, as the people, the people, decide that we don't want this anymore and take control of our communities and love one another once again. Yes, I am the peace bunny. I don't care. Then nothing will change until we decide, because right now someone else is pulling the strings.
Yes.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm a product of DC public schools, Washington, DC public schools. And when I went to school, first of all, I went to the same elementary school from pre-K through the 6th grade. And then I went to middle school for 2 years. And then I went to the same middle school for 2 years, and then the same high school for 2 years. The main difference, that I see, and again, I'm an educator. I got my master's in secondary education back in 2007. I taught for a number of years, DC, Philadelphia, and even New York. I emancipated myself from that work back in 2016 to consult with educators nationally and to work on some policy. The main thing is Black teachers no longer really have access to the classroom. I was taught and raised by Black teachers. All of my teachers were Black, right? And it wasn't until I got into like middle school, like 8th grade, I had like my first white teacher, and then I had like maybe 3 in high school. But especially in elementary school, we had the same teachers in that school from they taught there for like 50 years, so they knew generations of us. They knew our parents, they knew our grandparents, they knew our uncles and aunts. They lived in the neighborhood. Our teachers went to church with us, and they did everything, and they could really discipline you, and they put their hearts and their souls into this because they saw us as their children. Right now, we have a lot of teachers who are not Black. They're being paid all these big bonuses and being gentrified into our neighborhoods, and they don't have the cultural competency to raise our children, let alone the life experience, right? Like these are, I was a young educator myself when I went into the classroom, but things to think about in terms of how the landscape of education has changed and how Black people really don't have access to teaching jobs anymore. What are your thoughts on that, Lala?
I think that's the key critical thing, but look at what's happening right now in our world currently. They are removing curriculum from schools. Teachers are now being threatened with jail if they even teach anything. So teaching I wouldn't want to be a teacher. First of all, you're underpaid for what you're doing, and now they're telling you what you can and cannot teach. And all of the programs that were set in place to helping these communities are now being taken away, saying that it's no longer needed, or everybody needs to be equal, when it was never an equal playing field in the first place. Never has been. It's just been an illusion of what they say. Down in Florida, which I have been down in Florida for several years now, they even took teachers out of the classroom, allowing military people to come in and teach who have no educational background. Did I let that sink in for a minute? They're letting people come in and teach your children who don't have an educational background because they need teachers so bad, but yet they want to sue them. So I think as long as they have these things in place and they have us in a chokehold, it doesn't matter what color teacher you're going to get. You're lucky to get a teacher. at this point. So how do you expect to educate our children when the educators are not educated themselves? Simple
Exactly.
as that.
I'm in
Yeah.
Florida too, by the way, and which is like the wild, wild west these days because Florida politically is like the wild west. But I have friends who were teachers and guidance counselors, and they would tell me that instead of even raising the pay to retain teachers, what they've done is create programs to get people from other countries for a low cost to come and do the teaching jobs. And that way so that you can cut down costs, but also you have to question the quality of the education, especially to your credit, Lala. You said that, you know, they're having people with no educational background teaching your kids because a lot of teachers, you'd find that they didn't originally wanted to be a teacher. They studied something in school, they couldn't find a job, and as long as you have a bachelor's, you can get a teaching job in most states, and they went for it, not really having the passion originally needed, and also not really even necessarily trained. Because if you go through a college program to be a teacher, I'm sure you're more equipped to do that job versus you just kind of like shimmy your way in. But I think that with what's going on, we need to shift from our individualistic nature in America. And I think that concept is to our detriment and has us lagging behind other countries. I think that to deal with all the issues around education, community-based, family-based togetherness is going to help solve or rectify some of the issue, especially as it comes to childcare costs, time, and money. A lot of this is also a money issue.
You got that right. And there we go. Once again, we're back to the disparity of the have and the have-nots. It's constructed very well to tie us all into bondage. And it is for a reason. I'm not trying to preach doomsday. What I'm trying to get across is until we are ready to make the change, until we are ready to really pay attention to what's going on around us, this is just one little puzzle piece that we are suffering from. And this is where you also really need to be paying attention to who you're voting for, who is coming in on these smaller platforms, such as your local librarian, your local jailer, your local. If you paying really close attention right now, you'll see that there are a lot of people who are against anything that we stand for, are going for those smaller jobs because it's a stair step into the politics to take care of what they want to get wiped out. But Erica, I'm curious to know for you as an author, how do you give back as well? That's something that we all do. You sound like to me that you're a person who likes to give back. So how do you give back to the community?
Well, you know what I do? I graduated from Arts High School. That's legacy. Melba Moore graduated from there. Tisha Campbell, Savion Glover. I'm not going to tell you when I graduated, but I'm not going to tell you my age. But I graduated from that amazing school in the performing arts. And I would go back and speak to the television production class. I actually worked with a friend of mine. He was there. He just retired this school year. And I helped one of his students. Her dream was to publish a book, and I helped her publish her book. I helped her get her ISBN. I helped her send her letters off to the Library of Congress. We sat down and we worked with a fellow student that was an art major that helped her do her illustration so that she knew those steps to take in order to create her book that she wanted to write and make available. So yes, giving back is so important. But my thing is if we don't give back in those areas that are depleted, you can give all day. But if it's in an area that's already overflowing because that's where everyone is, yes, that's for optics. No, we need to get in here where it's depleted. And that was an area for me that was depleted because when I went to Arts High School, no, we didn't have television production. We just had music, drama, and art. No, we didn't have creative writing. And truth be told, I was a music major, but I was a writer before I sang or danced or did anything. I was a writer. So my thing was, is this this was an area that was depleted. This young Latina wanted to learn how to do this. And I said, you know what? I am obligated and committed to her. We started off with 15 of them, and she ended up being the only one. And I said, all right, girl, it's me and you. We're going to publish this book. And it took us all school year. And at the end of the year, before she graduated, she had her completed book. So that is one of the things that I give back. But we have to start giving back in those areas that are depleted, because there are still people there that want that. You know, not everybody wants to, you know, do the latest challenge and shake it up and drop it. Not everybody wants to do that. There's some people that want to do that latest verbal challenge and read these words and get these phonics going and do math and science. But those are areas where people are depleted, where nobody wants to go and step over there. Oh, that's corny. There's nobody over there. But that's the area. That's the area that needs our attention and focus. So I think it's time for us to start challenging ourselves and each other. Say, hey, you know what? Let's put our energy over here, because there's a whole group of kids over here. There's a whole group of talent over here that's not being watered, and it's time to really start putting some fertilizer and some water over here.
Agree.
Absolutely. Thank you all for bearing with me. I am in DC right now, and there is a storm brewing. So there's some things happening in and out, but Lala started a trend today. So listen, y'all, listen. Aside from everything that we've been talking about, I do want us to talk about Governor Kathy Hochul's disgusting comment that even Black kids in the, there's some Black kids in the Bronx that don't even know what a computer is. So let's go to that soundbite, and we'll add on to the conversation. Today, we're talking about why our kids are not being educated. We know that there are disparities, but we also know that we do have families that work really hard. We do know that children do actually want to learn, and they're actually capable of learning. So, oftentimes when these narratives get put out there, we have policymakers who internalize and perpetuate these anti-Black stereotypes. So let's go over to that soundbite, and then we'll comment on it.
Young Black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word a computer is. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions through technology, then you're really addressing society's broader challenges.
Now, Governor Hochul is reversing course. In a statement, she says, quote, "I misspoke and I regret it." I asked my next guest for their thoughts and how the internet is.
First of all, Erica, I'll let you start this one off. Go ahead.
You got me clutching my pearls over here. Listen, apparently this one, it's clear to me, she has an agenda of sorts. And sometimes when people have an agenda, they need to find somebody to be their footstool to stand on, or their soapbox to stand on. So she made the Black community her soapbox to stand on and say something, speak out of turn, but she got the ear of whoever she wanted to hear what she was saying. We also need to be aware of that. So I think she spoke out of context. I mean, obviously, she spoke about a community of people that clearly she knows nothing about, but that she's looking at stat. Hey, girl. I'm
trying to break my computer screen. Who's trying to break my computer screen with that?
Hey, girl, hey. Clearly, she's using on the back of Blacks, as was once said in the 70s and 80s, and it's still being done, to use the platform of the struggle of Black people as to what we are going through as their reasoning of speaking, but for me to be seen so that people will know who I am and know what I'm speaking about and know to push that button for me when it's time for me to be elected. So yeah, I think that was just a platform boost for her, and for her to be seen by the right people saying the wrong thing, but maybe to put her in the position she wants.
Thanks, Erica. Athena, go ahead, girl. Go in, sis.
No, Janelle, her apology was not enough. Sorry.
No.
The caucasity of this woman. The caucasity of this Wahite woman.
Come on, Athena.
Come and say that Black kids do not know what a computer is, and then try to clean it up, say she misspoke. Your biases came out. Okay, your real views came out. And you got caught with your slip showing. So now you're trying to backtrack because a lot of the voters in the state are for Black and brown people.
Mm-hmm.
And even to say that, and this is why I always get, perturbed when people say people of color. It's always people of color when everyone want to bandwagon with Black people. And then when it comes to shaming us, disgracing us, it's specifically Black. So she did that on purpose.
Oh,
On purpose. She could have said kids in general. We were just talking about how in general the literacy rates in this country and the kids can't read. So why do Black kids specifically need to be called out? That's because her racial biases were coming out in that statement. And I do not think, I'm tired of people with these fake statements that they put out that their PR and publicists. Like, we are in a different time. Okay, post Cat Williams and Club Shay Shay, we are exposing all the fraudulent and deviant people. Like, we do not have time for any fakeness. But I'm glad she revealed herself, and we should take note of this. And then when it comes time to vote, you need to consider these things that these politicians do, especially Governor Cat.
oh, she wants to be the white savior so bad.
Hmm.
Y'all remember those commercials where they come on like, "But the children in Africa, Katie." This is exactly what she came out with, this bullshiggity. Okay, she is out of touch. She tried to sound relevant, like she knew what she was talking about, but her caucasity did come out in the fact that she doesn't even know what it is. She's what we used to say. Remember when we said we was kids? She was all in the Kool-Aid, but she didn't know what the flavor was. Somebody told her what to say. She wanted to actually talk to her constituents so that she could get more donations for getting back in office. This is all tied politically, but it shows just how much you are out of touch. You are so out of touch. Our children probably know more about computers than your children do, because they can play a game, because we give that to them immediately as soon as they come out of the womb. But the fact that she even had the mouth to fit about how our communities run when she knows nothing about them is just the bodacious boldness of the whiteness of 2024.
Absolutely. Listen, y'all are tuned in to the Fly Nubian Money panel. Make sure you go over to flynubianmoney.com. We have our panels here on the Fly Nubian Queen TV network. Weekdays, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We hit on a variety of topics. You're always going to see, different queens and, weighing in their area of expertise. Be sure to text the word queens to 87948. 87948. So you can get some goodies from the Black Business School, which is our sponsor. They are, sending us AI stock options list. So you can download that and use that to get your money in order, because as our children are being attacked in schools, as elected officials apparently are attacking our children and attacking us and claiming that our kids don't even know what the word computer is, we still have to plan for the future. We still have to make sure that we are putting our money in the right places, and we're setting up our children for generational wealth. So go ahead and text the word Queens to that number. Get the goodies from our sponsors at the Black Business School. That's text the word Queens to 87948, 87948 for AI generated stock options list. And remember, set your notification bells and make sure you are tapped into Fly Nubian Queen TV on YouTube in order to come to these panels Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. All right, so listen. Governor Kathy Hochul really did trigger me. I know for a fact that her apology was insincere. I don't think that she made a Freudian slip or, misspoke. This is literally how small she sees our children. Right. I know another thing I want to say is, irrespective of a parent's, I know that education starts in the home. I always wanted to work really hard, and I was really nerdy because we had an encyclopedia set in my house, so I wanted to learn how to read so I could read the encyclopedia, which is really, really cool. But every single child, especially in the state of New York, Governor Kathy knows what a computer is, because you force kids to learn from home during the Rona. Right. And those children all got computers in your state. right? That was a policy that you put up. You made sure every single kid was at home learning online virtually, and they knew what a damn computer was. So you can miss me with that. So I just had to throw that out there and be petty, because that definitely was getting on my nerves. Now let's look at some of these. Oh, let's see what we have here. 50 Cent clowns New York governor for claiming black kids from the Bronx don't know the word computer.
50 for the win. I love him. I love him. I love him. I love him. He just come out and tell the truth and then go back in the shadows. You know, like he comes out, says the truth and says, see you later, bye.
50 is like the best troll. I just love that cancer energy in him. He always have the clap back for everybody.
Yeah, I know that it's just highly problematic to have a whole governor making really, really ignorant, asinine public statements about our children. So I can only imagine the conversations that are had in private in some of these closed door meetings that we are not privy to.
Exactly. And notice that she issued an apology, but she's never reprimanded. There's no one that, there's no reprimand. There's no one that came out and said that she shouldn't have said that. There's nobody that came out and publicly reprimanded her. It's ridiculous. So it's like, we are the soapbox. We are on the back of blacks to make a point and to get a vote. That's what it is.
And we all know this script. We know it too well. They come out and say whatever they want to say, and then all of a sudden, I'm so sorry I said that. Please list me with that fairy tears that you got, because you said what you meant and you meant what you said. Period.
Absolutely. All right. Listen, we are so grateful for everyone who's tuned in and tapped in with us over here at the FlyNubianMoney.com panel. Again, we're here weekdays, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I want to thank all of the queens. I want to thank you all for, coming through. And so I want to go around the room. Let's go around the panel and give some final words. Let the people know your final thoughts on this topic, as well as where we can follow you and support your work. Let's start with Erica.
My final thoughts on this is moms, dads, parental guardians, kinship relatives. Don't be afraid to step out of the box and get out there and see what else is available for your kids. There may even be programs that can help you read. If your literacy level is not to level where you want it to be, there are things that you can do together. There are programs that you can take, but do not settle for less. I can be found at www.faithintransition.com.
Excellent. Thank you. Lala?
And my final thoughts is it's not just on the parents. It's on us as well as communities. I grew up in a small community, and I knew that if my mother couldn't do something, someone else did it for me as well. We all made it a point to live in a community where truly no child was left behind. It takes a village to raise a child. And until we put that into our spirits and get back to the basics, nothing is going to change. You can find me on all social media platforms under Realty Goddess, and you can find all of my free resources at bit.ly/Laura Key Info.
Excellent. Thank you. Queen Athena.
Hi, everyone. My final thoughts is this. The government does not care about you or your kids. We are in a time where there is a financial reckoning, and all these little shifts and changes are happening that are going to mean a lot of detriment for our future and for our kids. So now more than any time, we need to financially galvanize ourselves. I am Athena Gardner. I am a CPA and founder of We Wealth Women, where we help women become wealthy goddesses, and our pillars are wealth, wisdom, and womanhood. Right. If you guys need any assistance with coming up with this financial plan for this reckoning, then you can head out at wewealthwoman.com and contact me there.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, I am your hostess for the day, Jade Harrell. You all can find me at highblackesteem.com. I'm an educator, organizer, and I'm a undoing a racism coach. So definitely check out our programming over there. My key takeaways here is, even if you or your child is struggling with literacy, persevere. be resilient, look for those resources, and at the end of the day, reach out for support. Yes, we pay our tax dollars, and yes, people should be doing their job, but there's a whole system that is designed to keep our children as a permanent underclass. And the fact that they're passing them through the system without them learning how to read, it just shows the importance of us educating our own children. And shout out to the Black Business School and the Black Core of Three, right? Educating our own children, supporting Black businesses, that's all a part of the process. So I want to thank everyone for tuning into our Fly Nubian Money panel today. We'll see you again next week. Again, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Definitely support our sponsor, theblackbusinessschool.com, and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you soon. Take care.